About 83% of you guys are not subscribed. Subscribing, clicking that like button, and commenting all help me out a lot in doing what I really want to do. Thank you guys so much for all your support. Okay, 3, 2, 1. What is going on, guys? Rogue TCG here bringing another Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel deck profile. You guys voted for it, and I am happily responding. Here is Orcusts Horus. This deck is really interesting. It is basically functional as any other Orcust deck, except now it has a new axis, being the Horus cards. The Horus cards let you pitch cards from your hand in order to send Horuses from the deck to the graveyard, and Mseti, the best one, lets you search the most important card for the strategy, King Sark, by pitching it in another card, getting King Sark, and then drawing you a random card, which is great. Like in Orcust, one of the biggest issues is getting big face guys in your hand that you can't do anything with. Namely, I'm talking about Orcust Nightmare and World Legacy World Wand ending up in your grip. In this build, not as much of an issue. In this build, we are playing the King Sark, which lets us pitch a card from hand to send a Horus from deck to graveyard 4 times per turn. We're only playing 3 Horuses, so the max we're realistically going to be doing is 3. However, we only really want to be doing that twice per turn because we kind of want to open a Horus, namely Mseti, which is why we're having a playset of it in the main deck. But that's enough yapping about the general overview. Let's go to card by card and see what this deck can do. Starting off, unfortunately, this deck can't be sorted because Master Duel is an amazing client. For hand traps, we are on triple Maxi, triple Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, and triple Infinite Impermanence. For hand trap prevention, we are on double Call by the Grave and 1 triple Tactics Talent. We are on Orcusts named Brass Bombard, which allows us to banish itself from the graveyard, locks us into darks for the rest of the turn, so do keep that in mind. Since all the Horuses are different attributes, the only one being dark is Mseti, we want to make sure we do any non-dark related plays before we commit to any Orcust graveyard effects, which all lock us into dark monsters. Or we are playing a small Phantom Knight engine in this deck since they are amazing pitch targets and really let us play differently than other Orcust builds. I saw another version of this deck is Orcust Horus Runic. That's also an interesting build. However, I wanted to go with Phantom Knights because they hold a deep place in my heart and a little special place. So we are on 1 Brass Bombard. This is just in case we need to get an Orcust in our hand out of hand. If we are doing it on our opponent's turn via the Orcust Babble, it's a quick effect, so that is something. We are on a double Symbol Skeleton, allowing us to banish it from the graveyard, target another Orcust other than itself, or not another Symbol Skeleton, and special summon it, and then we're dark locked. We are on a triple Orcust Harpour, the best one, lets us banish it from the graveyard to special summon an Orcust other than itself from the deck, and then we're locked into darks. And then triple of the other best one, Gears to the Orcust Mech Knight on normal or special. It gets to send an Orcust or a World Legacy card from deck to grave. And then it has a clause where it can become a tuner. However, we're not playing any synchros, so it doesn't matter for us. However, it can matter for opponents if they want to thrust and steal it. And then also has another effect. If it's the only monster you control, you can make it level 1 token for both players, which allows us to go into a 1-card Galatea using Link Karibo. On our last Orcust cards, we're on double Nightmare, allowing us to banish it from the graveyard, target a monster on field, send a Dark Machine from deck to graveyard, and increase the targeted card's attack by the level times 100. So it's a neat little battle trick that can sometimes come in handy, but the main thing is it sends a Dark Machine from deck to grave, not just an Orcust. So we can also send World Wand to the graveyard via Nightmare. And then lastly, I mentioned it enough, we're on 1 World Wand, allowing us to banish it from the graveyard, target a banished Orcust, and special summoning it, really allowing us to play around interactions such as SP Little Knight or banishing interactions like a Bestial on a graveyard Galatea. Basically allows us to say, okay, cool. Anyway, we're going to bring that Galatea back via World Wand instead of Symbol Skeleton, and then just continue our plays that there on out. For our Horus cards, we are on, I almost didn't finish the Orcust. We're on 1 Orchestrated Return, allowing us to pitch an Orcust or World Legacy in order to draw 2 cards. It's pretty good even if it gets ashed, because we can get an Orcust out of hand. We're on 1 Orchestrated Babble, it makes all our Orcust quick effect, and if it's engraved, we can pitch a card to add it back to hand, except for the turn it was sent to the graveyard. And then Orcust Crescendo, which is a counter trap as long as you control an Orcust Link monster, and banishes the card it negates, which is critical. Like, it is really, really strong, banishing whatever you're negating, because it plays around Flamberge. It plays around in-hand effects. It plays around destruction. It's just so Kino. Now on to our Horus cards. We're on triple Mseti. If we control King Sark, we can special this card from our grave. We can only summon it once per turn that way. All the Horus cards are going to have that, so I'm not going to mention it. But its secondary effect allows us to send 2 cards from your hand to the graveyard, including this card. Add 1 King Sark from your deck to your hand, then draw a card. If another card you control leaves the field by an opponent's card effect while this card's in your monster zone, except during the damage step, you can send 1 card on the field to the graveyard. So all the Horuses will have some sort of on-field effect that protects, not necessarily protects you, but has a negative effect for your opponent, as well as if they want to remove something in some way. So Mseti lets you, in return, bounce a card, non-targeting, or sorry, not bounce a card, Dingirsu's a card, which is pretty nice. We're on 1 Dumatef. It gains 1200 attack and defense for each Horus you control. If a card you control leaves the field by an opponent's card effect, you can draw cards up to the number of different named monsters in your main monster zone. So really nice for refilling your hand, and we kind of want to end on this one if we can. And then we are on 1 Happy. If another card we control leaves the field by an opponent's card effect while it's in the monster zone, we can target 2 cards that are banished or in the graveyards and either add both to hand or shuffle both into deck. Really good graveyard interaction against our opponent by shuffling those in the deck, and really good for recurring our banished resources since we're playing Orcusts and Phantom Knights by adding them back to our hand. So yeah, we are on 2 Walls of the Imperial Tomb. This is functionally King Sark. During our main phase, we can add a Horus from our deck to our hand, then place a card on our hand on the bottom of the deck. I actually kind of want to play 3 of this because it grabs Mseti, but I don't want to be playing too many copies of Mseti because more than 1 doesn't really do too much. We could pitch Mseti plus Mseti to get King Sark, but we'd prefer to pitch an Orcust or a Phantom Knight. And then we are on the aforementioned King Sark. Horus monsters you control can't be destroyed by card effects that do not target them. Cute. You can send 1 card from your hand to the graveyard, send a Horus, that's 4 times per turn, and once per turn you're going to start the damage step. If a Horus monster battles an opponent's monster, you can send that opponent's monster to the graveyard, which is why we kind of want to end on Dumatef. Sure, it's going to be a 1200, but even if they try combating it, if they don't read King Sark, it's just a free removal, which is nice. And then for lastly, our last portion of the deck, we are on Phantom Knights. Phantom Knights of, we're on 1 Torn Scale, and on Ignition we can pitch a card to send a Phantom Knight from our deck to our graveyard, except for itself. And if a Phantom Knight is banished from your graveyard, you can special it from your graveyard, but banish it when it leaves the field. However, it's not banished if you put it under an Xyz. So that's cool. We're on 1 Ancient Cloak, allowing us to banish it from the graveyard to add 1 The Phantom Knight card from deck to hand. Typically, it's going to be the Phantom Knight's Silent Boots if we control a Phantom Knight other than itself, or not even other than itself. We just control a Phantom Knight, we can special from hand once per turn, and we can banish it from our graveyard to add a Phantom Knight spell trap from deck to hand. Pretty good for grabbing searchable Imperm, functionally, or rather, it's more closer to a Fiendish Chain rather than an Imperm. And then we're on 1 Phantom Knights of Ragged Gloves. This is basically a bridge for any of our Phantom Knights, so this translates to any Phantom Knights card in the graveyard, and it's a really easy way to trigger your Torn Scale whenever you want to. So we are playing just the 1 glove as just an extra target, because I found actually playing 5 targets in deck is probably the right amount if we're playing 45 cards. For our Phantom Knight spell traps, we're on 1 Shade Brigandine. If we have no traps in grave, we can just special summon it as an extender. And then triple Fog Blade, we can target an effect monster on field, negate that effects, and we can't attack the monster that's negated, and their opponents can attack with the card that's negated. So if we negate our stuff, they can't attack us, period. If we negate theirs, we have to get rid of either the Fog Blade or their monster in order to attack. So real cool stuff. And then also has a secondary effect, which not too many people know. We can banish it from the graveyard, target a Phantom Knight in graveyard, special summon it to our field, but it's banished when it leaves the field. Really great stuff for getting our extra deck material back. But that's it for the main deck, I believe. Nice solid 45 cards. I believe we probably have to play more than 40 for playing the Horus cards, just because they really encourage us to discard cards and they don't really do too much by themselves. So we really want to be filling our deck with supplementary engines that are searchable via the extra deck, or searchable via cards that we can pitch to the graveyard via King Sark in order to make our list a lot more brutal to play against. So that's it for the main deck. Now let's hop into the extra. In the extra, let's start with our links. Let's go up. We're on 1 Link Karibo for the both for Brass Bombard as well as for not Torn Scale, I apologize, as well as for the Girsu token. We're on Double Galatea. It needs 2 effect monsters, including an Orcust, so we actually can't use Shade Brig for it, which is important. This linked card can't be destroyed by battle. You can target one of your banished machines, shuffle in the deck, and then set 1 Orcust spell trap directly from your deck. It's typically going to be Babel if we don't already have it up, just because Babel is very invaluable for this deck, so we really, really want this. Which is also, if you're playing against this deck, this is like the best Cosmic Cyclone of all time. So if you're playing against it, I don't want you to Cosmic it because I love Orcus, but probably the best play is to Cosmic or pop the Babel as soon as possible, even if they can just grab it back using its other effect. If you're sending it to graveyard, it's something like MST, Twin Twister, something like that. We're on 1 IP Masquerena in order to go into SP Little Knight, finally in Master Duel. We're on 1 Dark the Dark Charmer Gloomy in order to grab back Link material to go into SP Little Knight, finally in Master Duel. We're on 1 Long Gearsu in order to send cards on our opponent's field to the graveyard. It's also the best emo boy. 1 Fantastic Rusty Bardish. This gets us to our Phantom Knight engine by itself, and it just needs 2+ dark monsters. Typically going to be like a Dingirsu plus 2 other monsters, or a Galatea plus 1 other monster. In our basic combo, we can get to the point where we have Galatea and Harpor on the field, so we can use that for Rusty Bardish if we really wanted to. And Rusty Bardish has the effect during our main phase, we can send a Phantom Knight from our deck to the graveyard to set a Phantom Knight spell trap directly from our deck to our spell and trap zone. If a Dark exceeds a special summon to a zone it points to, we can target a card on field and destroy it, and it can't be used as Link material, period. So even if this card's effects are negated, it can't be used as Link material. Kind of unfortunate. However, I really want to point out that effect where if a Xyz is summoned to a Link point, you get to pop a card, which turns Dingirsu into send a card, to pop a card, and send a card, which is Kino as fuck. And lastly, we are on 1 Access Code Talker, just to put a big number and to potentially get over numbers that are way too large for us to deal with. I'm mainly going to be thinking about cards like, not necessarily in Master Duel, but in the TCG, I'm thinking about cards like the Voiceless Voice Skull Guardian card that gets to 4100. We can't realistically get above that, really, so access code really gives us that extra little pump. However, in this specific build, we definitely can get over that number. So this is completely up to your preference. Another card you can replace this with is like Nightmare Unicorn, is just an extra spin plus discard. So there's that, or you can put another rank 8 if you don't want to go as Link heavy. For Xyz, since the Horuses love being used as Xyz since they're all level 8, we have 1 Phantom Knight of Breaksword. This is what we want to mainly use using our Phantom Knights. However, we can also use Simple Skeleton for it, which you can bring out from the deck with Harpor. So there's some flexibility there. Breaksword allows us to, once per turn, detach a material, target a card our opponent controls, and 1 card we control, pop both. And if it's popped, we get a special summon 2 Phantom Knights from our graveyard and make them level 4. Just to go into Raider's Knight, it needs 2 level 4 dark monsters. Typically, it's going to be made with a Breaksword. However, we can make it with something like a Gearsu plus a Harpor, or a Gearsu plus a Shadebrig, or a Harpor plus a Shadebrig. So it's not necessarily completely out of our reach to just hard make it. It basically allows us to attach a material to special summon from our extra deck a Phantom Knight, Raid Raptor, or an Xyz Dragon Xyz monster that's 1 rank higher or lower. And then it's popped during the next end phase. And then Raider Knight will then go into Arc Rebellion XYZ Dragon, needing 3 level 5, so we're never hard making this. This Xyz summoned card can't be destroyed by card effects, all like immediately stopping the Raider's Knight destruction. You can attach 1 material from this card. This card gains attack equal to the total original attack of all other monsters on the field. And if it has a Dark Xyz monster, negate the effects of all other face-up monsters on the field after this effect resolves. You can't declare attacks with other monsters for the rest of the turn. You can use this effect of Arc Rebellion Xyz Dragon once per turn. Some astute viewers may notice that doesn't say until end of turn for the negation or for the attack gain. We get to keep it, and we get to negate everything else permanently, as long as we detach a Phantom Knight instead of Raider's Knight. If we're already in a winning position and we already have cards on our side of the field that we don't want to negate, we want to detach the Raider's Knight instead of a Phantom Knight so we don't negate our entire board. And then lastly, for our extra, we are on 1 Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord. It's just a monster negate, which lets us play around Nibiru using the Horus monsters. And then 2 Dingirsu Orcust of the Evening Star, 2 level 8 so we can make with the Horuses, so we can access the Orcust engine even without any Orcusts, technically speaking. And if it's summoned, we can either send a card on the field to the graveyard or attach a banished machine monster to itself as material. Then has the continuous effect of a card on the field to be destroyed by battle or card effect. We can detach a material from Dingirsu instead, and that is a once per turn on that protection. But Dingirsu is a really good card. We can only summon it once per turn because Dingirsu does have that clause on it. However, almost every single game we want to be making this first turn, and we want to get this guy into rotation as soon as possible. And we're playing 2, so even if they remove the first one with something like a Kashtira Fenrir or something like that, or Kashtira Unicorn, you will always have access to the secondary gears too. But that's about it for the profile. What do y'all think? I personally really like this deck, and I'm waiting for the Horus cards to get reprinted in paper in order to pick them all up in order to play this in paper. But thank you all so much for watching, if you still are, and I will be seeing you all next time. Bye bye! Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you wanted to talk to more Yu-Gi-Oh! Players like yourself, I would highly recommend checking out our Discord server. Link is going to be in the description, as well as the QR code on screen. We do talk somewhat frequently about Yu-Gi-Oh! And the current meta, so I would really enjoy to see you there. As well as we do recently now have channel memberships available on our YouTube channel, where we have 3 different tiers. We have Super Supporter at $2 a month, where you get loyalty badges, emojis, guaranteed comment responses, a shout out at the end of every video, as well as access to the members only Discord channel, where you get early sneak peeks at future videos. There is the Giga Supporter at $5 a month, where you have early access to all new videos about a day or two before they go up, as well as all the previous offers. And for $15 a month, we do have our final tier, which is going to be Femboy Fanatic. You get a guaranteed customized video every single month, as well as 1 hour of my time. Could be for anything you'd like. You want a duel? Absolutely. You want me to help build a deck? Absolutely. You want to play some Helldivers? Sure. I'll do anything for an hour once a month. But supporting does help me out quite a lot, and it does help me produce all of these videos. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll be seeing y'all later. Bye-bye.